Welcome back to Clarity in Action. This is the show where we debunk myths, we challenge perspectives so that we can inspire real action. And I am excited today because we are talking about trust. We are living in what can be considered a trust deficit. Trust in ourselves, trust with our teams, trust with our brands. And we know at the heart of everything is high trust. So, to help me with this discussion today, I have my new friend, Sarah Bouse. So, Sarah, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, you are doing a lot of talks on this and really making some big waves. Talk to us about what you mean by a trust deficit.
Yeah, so I call it like a trust recession, is really how I call it. I feel like in regards to marketing, we hear about all the time that people are like not buying as quickly. And I think it's more of the fact that we're in a trust recession.
Mhm.
People are not just buying quick and then understanding. What really happens is that people in regards to a trust recession is that it takes them longer to really trust a brand, trust a
Mhm.
business, trust that the people underneath them can do the job. So many times they micromanage. We just don't trust anybody anymore. And I
Right.
don't even think we trust ourselves. And so that's what I try to talk about all the time is just this huge trust recession we're in, whether you're a business or an individual.
Yeah. I think with the age of technology, with anything, there's a blessing and a curse to it. And I think with technology, it's been wonderful because we've been able to be more visual. We've been able to let people know we're there. But when there are so many, it's hard to bring trust out. I would love to go back because one of the things that I believe in is this idea of value and delivering value. And that's a great way to build trust. But when you're talking about trust has to also start with yourself and you have to trust yourself. How can you build value and how can you learn to trust yourself? Because if you don't trust yourself, how is anybody else going to trust you?
So I always tell people when they need to start to build self-trust because they have a lot of self-doubt in them in what they're
Mhm.
doing or the avenue they're going down or like, "Oh my gosh, I have this huge project." But how do they trust themselves? Truly it comes down to you just need to follow through on the promises you're making to yourself. Like that's the first thing you have to do. Like if you say you're going to do something, do it. And
Yeah.
then all of a sudden you'll be like, "Oh, they are trusting." It would be the same thing you would ask of one of your employees. If you ask them to do something, you expect them to follow through or
Mm.
you lose the trust. So that's why putting it back onto ourselves and really realizing like just make one decision this week that's through self-trust. Say
Yeah.
no to a good opportunity. Like pause a launch when you're like, "Oh, I'm going to really have to push through. This is going to cause burnout. It's not going to be authentic to my brand." Just pause it. Or if you feel like you need to raise your prices because your capacity is way too low, then raise them. And that's following through on that promise.
I think this is something we break promises to ourselves all the time.
Mhm.
Whether it's, taking care of a client or doing this. And it could be, again, a promise of working out, of eating healthy, of, following through. I think many times we can be really good at the promises on the work front, but it's those personal promises. And I know you do a lot of work with women and a lot of individuals. How do you help them? You brought up this idea of maybe just focus on one promise to keep, but how do you work with people to help them keep those promises to themselves?
So I ask them to do the exact same thing. I'm like, "Okay, you say you're doing everything right. You're doing all the things, but then one thing will slip you up." And so what
Mhm.
I usually tell them is I'm like, "I want you to pick one non-negotiable that you are just going to stick to." I think Mel Robbins is the one that said, "Nobody's coming to save you." And that's the same sort of thing is that
Mhm.
nobody's going to come and tell you to go to bed. Nobody's going to tell you to drink water. But it's one of those things where it's just like choose one thing that you're going to do because many women I work with have zero trust in themselves. They're going to go to AI or ChatGPT as their therapist. Like, should I stay with this person? Should I do this? And it's like, what if you literally just trusted yourself?
Yeah. So true. So I would love to hear a little bit of your story. Like what led you on this quest to help others understand the importance of trust and learning to lean into themselves?
So I actually am in a collaborative book called The Alpha Queens Rising. And interesting enough, that story that I put in there was all about me learning self trust. So I had an extreme health crisis in my early 20s like collapsed in the middle of like a huge hotel, that what I was at a business conference. I mean, all these different things happened. And I remember that I went to it and I was dismissed the whole time. And when I went to the doctors, they were kind of like, this is just what it is. This is how it's going to be. They told me that I would never be a mother. They told me that they put all the labels on me, if that
Mhm.
makes sense. And then I finally had to come to the realization I have to do it myself and I have to trust myself. And it's the same thing that happened when I wanted to build a business, that people are like, well, I don't know, it's COVID time. This is what it is. You're weird. You think of functional medicine. Like it was so many labels were placed on me. And I literally had to just trust myself and be like, Sarah, you can do this. And you have to trust yourself because the women you will affect will be life changing. And the generations that I've been able to affect from working in women's health has been life changing. And if I never trusted myself, this wouldn't happen.
You know, when you're saying this, so much is coming up for me because I, remember those times and building my own business too and having people, some of them in my inner circle. Are you sure you want to do that? It's going to
Mhm.
be really hard. And I just literally read a quote today that said, if you are going to be willing to take on the role of a leader, expect people to not like you, expect people to not believe in you, to challenge you. And that's what it is. There are always more naysayers out there. And, anything that we want, the estate, anything all the time. If you want it bad enough, you've got to be willing to fight for it. And I hear a lot of that is we've got to believe in it and we have to believe in ourselves because it's not going to be an easy journey.
No.
And if we don't believe in ourselves, we're not going to make it through.
No, and I feel like we oftentimes just outsource our trust to even data. Like people will be like, write a business plan, do
Yeah.
this. And they're like, okay, is this actually going to work? Show me how it's going to work. And you're like, but I know it's going to. And
Mhm.
you truly can. Sometimes it's just like, if you believe enough in a mission of some kind, it's going to happen.
Yeah.
But many times we'll go talk to our friends and tell them like, these are my goals. Guess what? That's sometimes the worst way to
Mhm.
like actually have a goal come to like to actually happen. And so that's where we need to just stop outsourcing
So
trust.
I want to come back to this because if, and I completely agree with you, sometimes we share, overshare, or just share too much with the wrong people
Mhm.
when you are looking, because at the same time, I do believe that there's power in having sort of a mastermind or a safe place to go to run these ideas past. How do you coach people to actually find the right sources to follow to help them bolster their intuition and their trust in themselves?
So that's where you have to choose the correct people. Like if you go into a mastermind, if you've ever been in a mastermind, it is like-minded people that are on their own mission generally, but they all want to help just rise people up. And it's the same sort of thing. If I was going to, let's say I want to go to the gym with a friend, that friend absolutely hates the gym. She hates working out. That is not her thing. She's not going to lift. She'd rather do yoga. Why would I ask the friend that wants to do yoga to go to the gym with me?
Right.
And so I feel like we can get into a whole like self sabotage. We're going to do that. But that's where it's like, when you want something, find the people that are in a similar situation or in a better off situation where you're like, I want to be them.
Yeah.
Those are the people you go after.
Well said, well said. I wanna go kind of into your circle of genius because you do some stuff with women and their health, and I think that women and men, both of them can see this where they're not feeling well, whether it's mentally or physically, and they go to a trusted advisor to get help and they're dismissed. I mean, I've had it done with me. I know that there's a lot of women, especially of a certain age, but
Yes.
there's also a lot of men out there too. And because I think there's so much going on with stress and adrenal fatigue and burnout that there's not an even line of, oh, you have this, so you have that.
Mhm.
Talk a little bit about that because I think that that is just, it is so, I don't want to use the word harmful, but that's the only word I can think of right now. But it's so deflating because you're not right and
Mhm.
you're looking for answers. And then you start thinking you're crazy.
Yes. And that's exactly what they do, male or female. They're like, I see high performing people every day that are doing everything right. They're eating well, they're working out, they're managing their families, their careers, I mean, everything, but yet they're exhausted, they're super anxious, they don't sleep at night. But my thing is like going back to that myth that I'm trying to really debunk is that when people say things are normal or how you're feeling is normal or your labs are normal, that doesn't mean optimal.
It doesn't mean it's good. It just means that
No.
everyone's off.
It doesn't even mean that it's functional. You might
Mhm.
not be a functioning adult. You're getting your work done, but you're not being functional. So that's where, in regards to my health practice that I have, I really look more at different patterns that are going on, your hormonal patterns, your stress patterns, gut health, metabolism, and truly your whole lifestyle. Because sometimes people can't see the like the forest through the trees kind of
Right.
thing, where there's something going on and they generally just can't see what's happening.
Mhm. It's so true. And it can feel so lonely,
Mhm.
when you know, and even just going back to what you were talking about, when you start talking to other people who are not the right people to get advice for, and you have this dream and you're so excited about it, and not that it doesn't need work and it needs some tweaking to get it there, but it can be so isolating and so lonely. And that can also tear us down. So,
Yeah.
how do you coach people through those times where they're in those moments of loneliness? Because that can also fight with the trust when you're like, do I really want to do this?
Mhm. And I deal with that quite often. So I have what's called the nutritional therapy valley of death that happens for women or the clients that I have about 4 to 6 weeks in. And that's where they hit that loneliness, that
Mhm.
all of a sudden, those things that they used to do, the parties they used to go to, they're like, oh, I can't do that because of this, because Sarah tells me I need to do this. And so many times I'm like, you know what? You're going to be annoyed with me. You can
Mhm.
message me. And I have people sometimes come to meetings with me that are just like, I can't do this. And I'm like, you know what? But you can. You're going to follow through. You're going to go back to that one non negotiable that you talked about. And so that's where I make sure that they try to find a support system.
Yeah.
Sometimes that is literally just me messaging them.
Mhm.
But other times, I will send them to like get a support system. Many times, if they might need mental health support, and that's okay because they just didn't get the yes, that's okay for you to go and do that. So there's many different things that you can do when you are lonely. But I feel like a lot of people, entrepreneurs, people in general, the same pattern that breaks bodies breaks businesses. And that's where it's that whole loss of self trust.
Yeah, well, tell me more about that. That's really intriguing what you just said. I would love to learn more about, what breaks people and what breaks the businesses.
So really it is the same pattern. So when you are, let's talk about bodies. You're pushing your body. You're not sleeping. You're working really hard. You're barely fueling yourself or fueling yourself with just trash. And you're like, I don't know why I feel this way.
Mm.
Okay? Go to your business. Your business you're pushing through. You're not training properly. You don't have the system set in place. You have just even garbage systems set in place and it breaks. And so
Mhm.
there it only lets it go so far. And that's where it's the exact same pattern. But if you would have trusted yourself in the beginning, like, hey, this is going to be a little bit slower. This food might take a little bit longer for me to make. That's okay. I'm going to do this. I might have to go to bed a little bit earlier. My business, I need to have some SOPs. I need to set up what I'm doing. I need to have my automation set up. I mean, all the different things so
Mhm.
that you can have it where your body is going the way that it needs to and your business is running the way that it needs to.
That's a really great way to put it. I think many times we don't think about what we're feeding our business like we do how we're
Mhm,
feeding our bodies, and then also our minds too. I
mhm.
think all of it works in conjunction. I would love to hear, you shared your story, but can you share maybe a success story that you had with one of your clients on how when they learned how to build that trust, how it unlocked them? Because we talked about the recession. Let's talk about what happens when we do trust.
Yeah, so I had this high achieving woman. She was in a banking company. I won't say what company she is just because of it, but she was stressed. She had come out of college, she was a high achiever, and she was just in the midst of that corporate ladder. And I remember when she came to me that she was miserable. Like everything about her life, she was like, I find zero joy.
Mm.
Like her libido was really low. Her stomach, every time she ate, it hurt. And she knew that she was failing at her job. On her breaks, she would take a nap. Lunch, she didn't feed herself. She needed to sleep. And then she lived off of energy drinks. And she came to me and she's like, Sarah, I don't know what to do. My doctor tells me I'm normal. My labs are normal. It's just I'm getting older. They wanted me to go on birth control. I mean, all the things that we hear.
Mhm.
And I remember her crying on the first session because I finally listened to her. And that's what she said to me. She goes, you finally listened and you didn't dismiss me. And I go, no, what you're saying is absolutely valid. And so it took a little bit. She all of a sudden, I was like, hey, I want you to find something to do, even. I want you to find something that brings you joy. She loved to read. So here in my area, they literally have a book club where all they do is it's a silent book club. You go, you sit at a coffee shop, you read, and they give about 15 to 30 minutes in the end because she didn't want to have to talk to a bunch of people. She just wanted to read.
Agreed.
And so that's what she did. But that's where she would have never enjoyed that.
Mhm.
We figured out we did all the other things with the like ascend method that I do. I mean, all of it. We figured out blood tests. We really realigned her body. I mean, we did all of it. But I remember her coming back to me and saying, she got a different haircut even. She was confident enough to get a different haircut. It was so interesting to see how it changes on the inside and the outside. But she came back to me and she says, I just got a promotion in my job. She goes, I'm not stressed about it. I don't sleep on my breaks. She goes, I shut off my computer at 5 o'clock and I let people know I'm not going to do this. And she was able to set up boundaries. She was
Yeah.
able to feel better. She figured out how to feed herself. I mean, and that's really what made a difference is all of a sudden, did she quit her job? No. She
Mhm.
just was able to perform at a higher level and feel good about it. And that made all the difference for me.
Yeah, because I think when you get that trust, you're able to see more clearly. You
Mhm.
know, you get the clarity of the vision that you need, and then everything starts to fall in alignment. And it's so much easier to make decisions because, again, your decisions are is this feeding the healthy side or the negative side?
Mhm.
And, many times we do. And so I value that you listen to her because I think so many times people they're just trying to put things in a box because that's where it belongs. And right now, more than ever, I think there is so much outside the box, and we're creating new boxes. And we have to allow for that because we're all not built the same. And we have to allow ourselves that. So tell us a little bit more about this book that you're a part of.
So it is a collaborative book of females that really it's about going from a place that would have just crushed us
Mm,
to a place of power and purpose. And all of the women that are in this book, it is incredible. The stories that they come from, but what they have done in their lives and the people they impact. It is not just about themselves. Um, I really like to call them lighthouses instead of spotlights. These
mm,
women are lighthouses. They are guiding the people that are in their demographic, in their culture. And that's where this book was really a collaborative work to make sure that women realize they're not alone. There's stories that they can identify with, but then also how they can grow from them.
beautiful. I love that. Well, I can't wait to share it with everyone. We'll put the link to get that book in the show notes.
Mhm.
And I would just love to hear, what is next for you? What are you working on right now, Sarah?
So, what I'm working on right now is interestingly enough, I have been a referral based business for 8 years. And I realized I'm like, I literally have to use social media. so so what I'm really working on is making sure that I can support women in all aspects. And so with Ascend Wellness, behind the scenes, we've been working, but I want to make sure that people that are not in my local area or cannot afford my services, that they still are able to receive knowledge and encouragement and actionable steps that they can take to change their own life. And so that's what I'm working on this year. But I have a talk coming up on March 19th here in the Omaha area. It's a very large Rise event. It's a women's leadership event that I'm going to be at. And then on top of that, I also get the opportunity to teach practitioners how to be me or how to really, work with
Mhm.
women in their own cultures. And so that's what I'm working on right now, just loving it for sure.
Fantastic. Oh, that's so exciting. Well, I can't wait to follow your story, follow your growth. I know you're going to be impacting so many lives.
Thank
And
you.
I have one last question for you before I let you go today. And that is, sitting where you sit today, learning everything you've learned up to this point, how do you define success for yourself?
That is a great question. I would say how I define success for myself is by the lives that I change. It's not by the financial number for me. It is truly by the lives that I'm able to change and the impact that I'm able to make on them. That is my biggest thing, is that financial is great. But what I want to do with that is impact women and individuals in general that are high performing, they're doing wonderful things, but my success is really their success, them able to step into whatever they want, whatever their goal is. That's what I want to see happen.
That's so beautiful. Well, thank you so much for being a guest on the show today. I love your thoughts. I love how you are changing thought patterns and just wish you continued success. Thanks so much for being here.
Thank you.